On the eve of our wedding, William held his childhood sweetheart in his arms and asked me for one night of freedom. He said that once tonight was over, he would remain loyal to our marriage for the rest of his life. I looked at him for a long time, then nodded and agreed. As he passed by my side, he said generously, "Tonight you can also go find a man outside. I promise I won't mind at all. No need to go outside." I walked over in silence to his very best friend. Looking deeply into those beautiful eyes, I asked, "Sleep with me tonight?" He has a childhood sweetheart. Don't I have a first love too? Chapter 1. The private room was filled with people, his closest friends, and my bridesmaids and best girlfriends. After several rounds of drinks, everyone was a little drunk. William suddenly wrapped his arm around Eulalia, the girl he had grown up with since childhood. "Eulalia, look," he said. Turns out a childhood sweetheart bond really can't beat someone who shows up out of nowhere. Wasn't I snatched away by Zara, this sudden newcomer? I'm marrying someone else tomorrow. Don't you feel even a little regretful? A wave of bitterness instantly washed over Eulalia's face, as if tears might fall the next second. What good is regret? You're the one who fell in love with her later. William gazed at Eulalia's tear-filled eyes in his arms, his expression full of tenderness. Then, how about we make up for that regret tonight? Eulalia looked up. How? William slowly turned his gaze toward me. Wife, he called out loudly. Tomorrow we'll be husband and wife. I promise I'll be loyal to our marriage for the rest of my life and never betray you. But tonight, the last night before the wedding, why don't we do something exciting and give each other one night of freedom? The room erupted into cheers and screams. Then, because of my icy expression, everything fell into dead silence. William's improper intentions were obvious. He wanted to spend one reckless night with the girl he'd shared an ambiguous youth with. To make up for the regret of having loved each other but never slept together, he was certain I wouldn't flatly refuse him. And afterward, as long as he coaxed me properly, I wouldn't hold this against him. The reason for his confidence was simple. Although he had been the one who pursued me passionately back then, in terms of family background, I was the one marrying far above my station. He thought I wasn't just infatuated with him, I also absolutely couldn't bear to give up his wealthy, elite family. After all, how hard is it for a common girl with parents who are ordinary factory workers to marry into a powerful family? Meeting him, in itself, was already incredible luck. He wasn't entirely wrong. A common girl being chosen by a rich heir, then being pressured by a powerful family, I had experienced that deeply before. Just not with him. The girls beside me tugged at my sleeve. Zara, don't be stupid. You can't agree to this. I looked at William for a long time, clearly seeing the determination and certainty in his eyes. In the end, I nodded and said calmly, "All right, I agree." Woohoo! Cheers, laughter, and applause rang out. The oppressive silence in the room vanished in an instant. Sister-in-law, you're generous. No wonder you're worthy of marrying into the Cruz family. No wonder William knelt in his dad's study for 3 days and 3 nights just to marry you. A woman who enters a family like ours has to have this kind of magnanimity. William Cruz's slightly tense lips curved into a relaxed smile, and he held his obedient little childhood sweetheart even tighter. He stood up with his arm around her. All right, it's getting late. I still have a wedding tomorrow, so I can't stay up all night partying with you. Eulalia and I will head out first. Order whatever drinks you want. Have as much fun as you like. Tonight, everything goes on my tab. Woo! Our little Eulalia is in for a tough night tonight. The room burst into teasing cheers again. As he passed by me, to appear fair, he lowered his gaze and said generously, "Wife, if you want, you can also go find a man outside tonight. I guarantee I won't mind at all." He must have thought he had me figured out, my reserved pride, my conservative nature, that I could never really let loose. That must be why he dared to say this. I turned to look at him. Really? He raised an eyebrow. Of course, a man of his word never goes back on it. You know I always keep my promises. Just like when I said I'd marry you, I did. His tone was proud, as if marrying me were some tremendous favor he'd granted, and so I should be sensible and generous about him and Eulalia tonight. I withdrew my gaze and looked toward the corner deep inside the room. At the man who had sat there all night, expression icy, silent from start to finish. No need to go outside. What did you say? Ignoring William's expression, I stood up and walked silently to the man's feet. I crouched down, posture lowered, emotion spilling from my eyes as I looked up to meet his gaze. Carefully, I invited him. Sleep with me tonight? Chapter 2. The cold-faced man leaned back against the leather sofa, looking down at me from above, as if the next second he might kick me away in sheer disgust. A sudden chuckle came from behind me. It was William. Wife. Of all people, why did you have to pick him? He was badly hurt by his first love years ago. Now he hates women. He stayed away from them for who knows how many years. Hates women. I rolled that phrase over in my mind. Is that so? My emotions surged again and again as I stared at him without blinking. At the face that had haunted countless nights of mine, leaving me sleepless and restless since meeting him again, if not for the courage borrowed from alcohol tonight. This was the first time I had dared to meet his gaze so directly. My nails dug into my palms. To be honest, I wasn't even sure how he would treat me now, until the cold tip of a leather shoe pressed against my chin. The man lifted his chin higher, his expression turning even colder. So intimidating it made people afraid to look at him directly. With a trace of anger in his voice, he asked, "Are you sure?" I didn't want to retreat. Instead, I pushed my chin a little further against the top of his shoe. "I'm sure." He suddenly stood up from the sofa. Almost everyone probably thought I had completely enraged him, that the next second I would be mercilessly thrown aside. After all, not long ago, a minor celebrity had tried to flirt with him at a banquet. Annoyed that the person was blocking his way, he'd casually swung his arm and shoved them straight into a pool. They struggled and cried for help as they nearly drowned. But he didn't spare them even a glance before striding away. Now even William panicked. He rushed forward in one big step, spreading his arms as if to stop him. Bro, she's my wife. At least, don't lay a hand on her. She doesn't know your temper. If she offended you, please be generous about it. Zara, get up already. Didn't I tell you before? This guy absolutely cannot be provoked. He's not interested in women at all. I know you're not interested in other men either. Stop putting on a brave act in front of me and go back early with your girlfriends to rest. Something William said must have struck a nerve. With one forceful motion, the man shoved him several steps away. His eyes were sharp, like hidden blades. Who said I'm not interested in women? At the same time, my vision spun as he hoisted me onto his shoulder. His deep voice, mixed with resentment from old grudges, sounded by my ear. Zara, you came to me on your own. Just as we were about to leave through the door amid everyone's shocked stares, William, watching his best friend carry me away on his shoulder, shouted after us. Richard, what do you mean by this? Right, his name, Richard. The man paused, turned his head slightly, and replied coldly. Exactly what it sounds like. William's voice was clearly anxious now. You're serious? She's my wife. After calling me wife all night long, why did that word suddenly sound so grating? Richard turned back and gave William a deep look, as if he couldn't even be bothered to say one more word to him. Then he turned away and carried me straight toward the exit. William really looked panicked now. He chased after us and grabbed Richard by the arm. Richard, we grew up wearing the same pair of pants. His gaze shifted to me, slung over Richard's shoulder. A friend's wife is off limits. You know that, right? Richard showed no intention of putting me down. After shaking off William's hand, he forcefully pressed a hand to William's shoulder, pushing him straight against Eulalia, who had followed them to the door, pinning them there perfectly, their faces almost touching. His voice was icy. Then remember that yourself. A fine night like this is rare. Take care of your own business. Chapter 3. I was already a little dizzy from the alcohol. Now, draped over Richard's back, the spinning only grew worse. I wanted him to put me down, so I softly called his name. Richard. What I got in return was only cold words. Don't call me like that. Are we close? The rest of what I wanted to say, to ask him to put me down, I clenched my teeth and swallowed back. Just dizziness. I could endure it. After all, I owed him. Not far behind us, William was still refusing to let it go, looking like he was about to chase after us. Richard, don't you dare cross the line. I won't let this go. He was immediately held back by their other friends. William. William! You know how Richard is. Ever since he came back to the country, he's been full of hostility. Don't take him head on. Remember that project near South City? You bid ridiculously low. If it weren't for your close private relationship, he wouldn't have kept quiet about it. He must be holding some resentment. Everyone knows how much you care about your wife. He's probably just doing this tonight to mess with your head. Maybe once he gets downstairs, he'll just dump her somewhere far away. He's been alone for years. No women around him at all. You of all people should know that. That nickname we gave him behind his back. Did you forget? The Black Monk. A black face for everyone. No interest in women. Runs the moment he sees a female. You were the one who started that nickname. Relax. The only one in his heart is that wild first love who abandoned him. There's no way he'd touch your wife. William didn't chase after us. Richard and I walked farther and farther away. Only before entering the elevator did I hear my two beautiful bridesmaids mocking William, their voices dripping with sarcasm. Oh, can't handle it when it's real? One night of freedom for each other. A gentleman's word is his bond. You can go find another man. I absolutely won't mind. Our Zara is single and free tonight. At the VIP parking area on the first floor. Richard really did throw me out. He tossed me straight into the passenger seat of his private car. The black Pagani sped off into the dark night. Inside a villa with extraordinary taste. A place I didn't recognize. One I had never been to. The moment we entered, he stripped off my coat and gripped the back of my neck, pressing a kiss full of resentment and brutality onto my lips. It hurt. I pushed him lightly. Richard. In response, my waist was clamped tightly, pinned against the wall, leaving me utterly unable to move. His tone was vicious. Didn't you say you wanted to sleep with me? Why are you dodging? I had no argument. I could only plead softly. Be gentler. The next moment, I was thrown onto the bed. He had no intention of being gentle. I can't. Clothes flew to the floor one by one. He was rough, relentless, without a trace of tenderness, until he realized that I was still untouched. He froze. That handsome face, always cold and merciless, filled with resentment and anger, finally softened a little. You never slept with William? After all these years apart, how could I explain my current situation to him? I clenched my teeth again and again, then brushed it off with a vague answer. We never got the chance. A man and a woman about to get married tomorrow. Yet they'd never slept together. In modern society, who would believe that? And who could actually pull that off? In my case, there was a reason. Because strictly speaking, William and I had never really dated. We skipped that stage entirely and went straight to the final step, marriage. That didn't mean he wasn't sincere about wanting to marry me. Or that I wasn't sincere about wanting to live well with him and walk through life together. It was just that after tonight, everything would probably have to change. Richard's thick brows knitted together as he stared at me for a long while. He clearly found it unbelievable too, that William and I had never crossed that line. But the truth was right in front of him, and he had no choice but to believe it. I truly had not been with any other man. The sharp chill in his beautiful eyes slowly melted away, replaced little by little with a faint redness, like years of suppressed grievance and deep affection finally willing to reveal a tiny corner of themselves, just enough for me to see. In the end, as if helpless and lowering his guard, he pulled me into his arms, on the corner of my lip that he had bitten open earlier. He placed a kiss. He hugged me and turned over, pressing my head into his shoulder and neck, cheek against cheek. I heard his burning breath by my ear as he said, "Zara, I still love you." After those words, his kisses turned lingering, tender, gentle. Chapter 4. Tears clung to the corners of my eyes. The chandelier on the ceiling swayed endlessly before me, blurring my vision. Midnight had already passed when my phone suddenly began vibrating nonstop. The gentle ringtone sounded especially grating at this moment, disrupting the man's focused state of mind. It was my phone. It was William. Who on earth had the time to deal with him right now? I meant to lift my hand and hang up, but my fingers were unsteady, and I accidentally slid onto the answer button. William's clearly unsettled voice immediately came through the line. "Wife, why aren't you home? Where did Richard dump you?" We're not playing that stupid pre-marriage freedom game anymore. I've thought it over. So boring. And Eulalia is trash anyway. Not even worth a strand of your hair. Where are you? I'll come pick you up and take you home. I really regret it now. How could I have said something so stupid to you in that private room? Before I could speak, Richard directly took the phone from me. His tone was arrogant. Regret? Too late. She can't go home with you. Because she's in my bed right now. What? Richard! The call was cut off. Richard shut the phone down and casually tossed it far away. The one William offended wasn't Richard. The one who suffered was me. He held me and moved me from the head of the bed to the foot of it. He bit my ear again. Seconds and minutes passed without pause. I waited and waited and waited. Yet no moment of rest ever came. At last, the night fully passed, and daylight broke through. Even the drawn curtains couldn't block out that bright glow. Today was the day William and I were supposed to get married. At this hour, I should have been rushing home immediately, getting myself ready, putting on my wedding dress, sitting before the vanity while the makeup artist carefully created a beautiful bridal look. Then I would quietly, full of anticipation, wait for William to arrive with a long procession of wedding cars to fetch me. Richard, of course, knew all of this. This man who had worked tirelessly through the entire night. As dawn gradually brightened, the hostility that had faded from him began to creep back again. He wouldn't let me go. He refused to stop. Begging didn't work. Pleading didn't work. Soft words didn't work. He only used those beautiful, reddened eyes to force the question on me. Again and again. Don't marry him. Promise me. Promise me. Zara. Don't marry him. Promise me. I truly wanted to promise him. If only he would pause for a moment and let me catch my breath. Right now, I couldn't even form complete words. After waiting a long time without an answer, the man seemed to despair. He suddenly collapsed onto me, all his weight pressing down. He held me tightly, tightly in his arms, his voice carrying a trace of pleading. Zara, don't marry him, please. So hard, yet at last there was a small opening for me to respond. Okay. My voice was hoarse beyond recognition. He immediately pushed himself up, staring at me intently. You promised? I nodded hard. If I didn't promise, would you really let me go marry your so-called best friend? Besides, after seeing clearly what kind of trash William was, would I be an idiot to still run off and marry him? His Adam's apple rolled again and again. His lips moved, as if he hesitated several times before finally asking, if I told you right now that I want you to be with me again, would you be willing? My entire body ached and felt numb. I didn't know whether to laugh or cry. All I could do was weakly punch his chest with a fist that barely had any strength left. Richard, you kept me up all night. I didn't even get 1 minute of rest. And now you're still asking whether I'm willing. His brows and eyes suddenly relaxed. So you're willing? I could only nod hard once more in reply. Chapter 5. A loud kiss landed by my lips. He pulled me upright in one swift motion. Zara, come with me somewhere. Where? You'll know when we get there. I shook my head and collapsed back onto the bed. No, another day. I'm exhausted. I can't even take a step. His tone was firm. No, today, right now. If you can't walk, that's fine. I'll carry you. I can carry you on my back. As he spoke, he was already hurriedly helping me into my clothes. I felt absolutely awful. I was filthy. We'd been at it all night. Richard, I'm a mess. Don't dress me like this. At least let me take a quick shower. He seemed anxious. It's fine. No one will know. We'll wash later. If the clothes are dirty, we'll just throw them out and buy new ones. And just like that, two people who had lost all restraint in a night of chaos, each wrapped in barely enough clothing for decency, walked out brazenly. Richard carried me out of the house and set me into the passenger seat. He drove fast, but steadily. When I got in, I noticed him checking my handbag, though I didn't know why. Less than 2 minutes after leaving the villa, he reminded me, Zara, turn your phone on. Tell your family the wedding is cancelled, so they don't make a pointless trip. Oh, right. Only then did it hit me. I'd really been worn down to the point of stupidity, ignoring William's countless messages and calls. I contacted my parents first. By the time I finished notifying my side of the family and friends, we had arrived at Richard's destination. I glanced sideways. On the bright red sign above the entrance, several bold characters stood out unmistakably. Marriage registration, Civil Affairs Bureau? This man had lost his mind, completely lost it. I stared at him in shock. He just smiled gently. Then he turned off the engine and carried me out of the car. We sat on the waiting benches outside the Civil Affairs Bureau. They weren't even open yet. He was so rushed that he hadn't bothered to tidy either of us up before dragging me here. One arm wrapped around me, the other holding both of my hands. Only then did his emotions seem to settle a little as he said, "Zara, we've been apart for 7 years. 7 years of missing each other. Don't you think that's a long time? I really can't wait even one more second. If you're willing, let's just register our marriage, okay?" How could I be unwilling? My first love waited 7 years for me, and I never truly let him go either. Now that we could finally end up together, why wouldn't I want that? But then I remembered the scene years ago, his mother firmly summoning me for a meeting. Richard and me, registering directly? What kind of family was he from? One that ranked near the very top of the national rich lists. How could our marriage possibly be this simple? So I couldn't help asking, "Your family, Zara?" He cut me off. He looked at me seriously, straight into my eyes. Two consenting adults fall in love, want to be together forever. They want a certificate to protect that love. I don't believe that must require the approval of elders. They have their views. But you and I are adults. Registering a marriage is a matter between the two of us. As for your parents, I'll go to uncle and auntie myself to apologize. I'll accept any scolding, any punishment, until they agree to let me be their son-in-law. But my family, Richard took a deep breath. Whether in the past or now, it was just as difficult. A sharp edge entered his gaze. "Zara, I'll say just one thing to you. If you dare, like 7 years ago, to shrink back, to run away, to abandon me again, you're dead." I hurriedly leaned my head into his chest to soothe him. "I won't run. I'll never retreat again. I'll listen to you in everything." Chapter 6. By the time the staff at the Civil Affairs Bureau started work, several more couples had lined up behind Richard and me. When he skillfully pulled my ID documents out of my handbag, I finally understood why he had been sneakily rummaging through it before we left. So he'd been checking whether my documents were there. Naturally, we were the very first couple to register our marriage that day. After staying up all night, both of us had obvious dark circles under our eyes. We should have looked exhausted. Yet in that small red background photo on the marriage certificate, we were grinning like two complete idiots. Anyone could tell at a glance, voluntary marriage. Extremely voluntary. The official steel seal came down on the corner of the photo, and we each received a little red booklet. When I took it, my hands were shaking with excitement. So were his. I was married to my first love. He scooped me up in his arms and planted a loud kiss on my cheek. As we walked out of the Civil Affairs Bureau, he leaned close to my ear, breathing heavily, and softly called out, "Wife." I was so embarrassed I couldn't even look at him, covering my face with both hands, but my 8 little white teeth refused to hide as I answered, "Husband." With the phone still off, the world was wonderfully quiet. On the way back to the villa, he took me to grab 2 sets of clothes on impulse. The moment we got inside, he stripped the clothes off me again, this time tossing every last one straight into the trash. Then he carried me into the bathroom, washing me and fooling around with me. Afterward, I changed into the newly bought pajamas and lounged on the soft couch, watching him in the kitchen a short distance away, making me a very late breakfast. Shrimp and egg custard, one of my favorite dishes from when we were together before. He still remembered. He brought it over and fed me bite by bite. Some things were troublesome, but they still had to be dealt with, had to be faced. After washing up and eating a little, both of us felt much more refreshed. Richard was the first to turn his phone back on. The moment it powered up, it was bombarded with calls. He answered one. The call was from a mutual friend of his and William's. "Oh my God, Richard, you finally turned your phone on. Where are you? Don't tell me you're really with Zara? Do you have any idea William has completely lost it? He's been speeding around all night looking for you. He's already torn through more than 10 of your properties in the city. Today is William's wedding day. You and the bride are both missing and unreachable. All the guests on the groom's side are there, but not a single person from the bride's side has shown up. It's already trending online. Cruz family heirs grand wedding, bride runs away. The entire internet is laughing at the Cruz family right now. William Cruz is racing toward your Rose Road villa as we speak. I barely dared to breathe. Richard, on the other hand, was completely calm. I'm at the Rose Road place. Let him come. After hanging up, Richard placed the empty bowls on the coffee table, took both my hands, and said, "Wife, go change your clothes. After we see William, I'll go with you to your parents' place to explain everything to uncle and auntie, so they don't worry themselves sick at home." I nodded. Okay. We had just finished changing when William started pounding on the front door. Richard pressed the electronic control and let him in. William looked utterly disheveled, also sporting heavy dark circles. His eyes were bloodshot, veins red from being held back too long. Stubble had sprouted darkly on his chin. He looked less like a groom and more like a fallen, shabby middle-aged man. The moment he entered, the anger on his face looked like it could set the entire villa on fire. First, he glared furiously at Richard. Then his eyes landed on me behind him. He took several deep, heavy breaths, as if grinding his teeth into powder and swallowing it down. Ignoring Richard completely, he forced himself to calm down and spoke to me in a low voice. "Wife, today is our wedding day. Did you forget? Come on, it's not too late. Let's go get married." As he spoke, he reached out to grab my hand. Richard slapped it away. "William, no wedding ceremony and no certificate. Don't shout nonsense. She's not your wife," William roared. "Aren't we going to the wedding right now?" The two men locked eyes. Richard's expression hardened further. From behind him, I spoke. "William, last night I agreed to your proposal of one night of pre-marriage freedom, but I never agreed that I would still marry you today. I'm sorry. From last night on, we both returned to being single. I can't marry you." After hearing my rejection, William clenched his teeth and asked Richard, word by word, "Did you touch her last night?" Richard replied lightly, "What do you think?" Before I could react, a sudden punch. William's fist slammed into Richard, knocking him staggering sideways. Chapter 7. You slept with my wife. I'll fucking kill you. After steadying himself with a hand against the wall, Richard didn't hold back at all. He swung and landed a punch squarely on William's face. William stumbled backward, crashing into the shoe cabinet by the door. Richard turned, grabbed a marriage certificate, seized William by the collar, and shoved it in front of his eyes. "Look carefully. Zara, she's my wife now. Say wife one more time and see what happens." William went completely blank. His hands trembled as he reached for the marriage certificate. There it was, the two of us in the photo, unable to hide our smiles, looking like a pair of blissfully stupid newlyweds. And right beside it, a registration date so fresh it practically burned. It was as if something finally snapped into place. William grabbed Richard by the collar in return, looking back and forth between him and me, then at me, then back at Richard, his voice exploding with disbelief. "When did you two get together? You were already screwing around behind my back, weren't you?" Another punch, this one straight into Richard's face. "Richard, I treated you like my best brother, and this is how you stab me in the back. You slept with my woman. You stole her from me. I didn't even dare touch her myself. And you had the nerve to drag her off to register a marriage on the very day we were supposed to get married? I'll kill you. You bastard who doesn't know how to cherish what he has. Who's your woman? She's mine. Mine." The two of them grappled together. I had no choice but to step in and break it up. Except I only held William back. I didn't stop Richard at all. As the fight went on, maybe because I was clearly taking sides, William really got beaten badly. The foul-mouthed shouting gradually broke into sobs. "You call me a bastard? You're the bastard. We were the closest. And this is what you do to me? Do you have any idea how hard it was for me to chase her? I chased her for a full year. I spent tens of millions and still couldn't win her over. Woo. I knelt in my dad's study for 3 days and 3 nights. I took 3 days of family punishment. My skin was torn open, flesh split, before he finally agreed to let me decide my own marriage. He pointed at me with a trembling finger, full of grievance. That's what finally made her believe I was sincere. Woo, she still wouldn't let me touch her. Said we had to take it slow, woo, and now you got all of it for free. Wah. Even though my parents think she's just an educated bookworm who's useless to the family business and didn't approve of me marrying her, do you know how proud I was to marry a tall, beautiful, highly educated academic genius? A female PhD researcher? Woo! In front of every brother I held my head high. They were all jealous, way better than their marriages to rich girls who only know shopping, beauty treatments, and cosmetic surgery. Woo! Why did you have to steal her from me? Aren't you in love with that first love who abandoned you? Go find her. Why dig at my wall? Richard, give her back to me, give her back. Woo! The fight couldn't continue. William had completely broken down, crying into a mess, sprawled on the floor, throwing a tantrum. Maybe I never truly understood William. I really hadn't expected him to have a side like this. Thinking back to that whole year he chased me so passionately. To be fair, he really did bring a lot of sunshine into my dull, research-filled life. Honestly, I had been moved by him. There were many times when I no longer thought of the name Richard. I thought I had finally put that distant first love behind me. Maybe I should cherish the second blazing love in my life. If I missed it too, perhaps I really would end up alone forever. But I didn't love William, the rich young heir, enough. Nor did I have the energy to play at love. Still, I truly had been willing to try with him. Seriously, with marriage as the premise. So one day, when he blocked me outside the research institute again, waiting for me to get off work, I asked him, "Are you with me just to have fun? You know I'm extremely busy with research. I really don't have time for a casual relationship. So if I agree to be with you, will we get married?" He might have misunderstood, thinking I wanted to marry him immediately. After walking me home, he swore to me, "Give me 3 days. I'll give you a clear answer. Wait for me." And that was how it happened. Him kneeling in his father's study for 3 days and 3 nights, enduring family punishment, all just to beg his father to let him marry me. When he finally returned to me, his knees nearly shattered from kneeling at home, his entire body bruised black and blue from his father's beating, he still smiled at me and said, "My parents have agreed to our marriage. As long as you're willing, we can get married immediately. Zara, I've already given up half my life for this. You can't reject me anymore." Seeing him like that, how could I possibly bring myself to refuse? All I could do was nod and agree. Going straight from dating to marriage, the pace really was too fast. Deep down, I felt uneasy. So when he first suggested staying overnight at my place, I refused. Later, when there was a suitable opportunity, he suggested I stay over at his place. I refused again. After that, he never brought it up anymore. Instead, he focused entirely on pushing our marriage forward as quickly as possible. He said, "That thing doesn't matter. I'm not in a hurry. We're getting married soon anyway. Let's save that beautiful thing for our wedding night." Just thinking about it makes it even more exciting. It wasn't until his childhood sweetheart, Eulalia, found out that William and I were about to get married and came to confront me once, that I learned the truth. It turned out he had already been in a relationship with Eulalia before. He fell for me, broke up with his childhood sweetheart first, and only then came charging toward me without restraint. I didn't think that was a big problem at all. He fell in love with me, stopped loving his childhood sweetheart, broke up with her first, then pursued me and got together with me. That process was correct. So I didn't dwell too much on his past with Eulalia, even though Eulalia continued to appear around him frequently. When did things start to feel wrong? After he met my parents. After both families formally met because their children were getting married. My parents are ordinary factory workers. They don't have much education and have never seen the wider world. Standing in front of a wealthy family like the Cruz family, with assets in the hundreds of millions, they inevitably looked out of place, awkward, hesitant in speech. Their hands were full of calluses, so rough that they didn't even dare to extend them for a handshake with their future in-laws. Even if they gave everything they had and emptied their savings, they still couldn't provide me with a presentable dowry. Gradually, I noticed that William's attitude toward me changed. Before, when he faced me, he was always gentle, humble, trying every possible way to please me. But without realizing it, He began to carry himself with arrogance and a sense of superiority. I didn't pay it much mind at first, because I was no longer the person I had been 7 years ago. I didn't think I was unworthy of a rich young master from the Cruz family who spent his days idling around, as long as he truly loved me and remained loyal to our relationship. And since his family had more money than they could ever spend, being a little idle didn't matter. No one ever said a person must struggle or strive just to be considered worthy. But if we were really going to talk about compatibility, I was a full-fledged female PhD researcher at a national research institute, highly educated, academically accomplished. In the future, my work would benefit society and the people. My prospects were limitless. Why would I be unworthy of a man born with a silver spoon in his mouth? Who couldn't even recognize all the letters of the alphabet? Whose degrees and certificates were all bought with money? Who squandered his days recklessly, wasteful and illiterate, a spoiled rich heir? So who exactly was unworthy of whom? If he truly looked down on me, well, I looked down on him too. I thought he understood the balance between knowledge and wealth between us. I never expected that after seeing my painfully ordinary family. He really came to believe that I was the one marrying far above my station. That meeting him was some tremendous stroke of luck for me. That I should become more humble. That I should instead work harder to hold on to him, to please him. And so he began once again exchanging lingering looks and ambiguous gestures with his not quite cut off childhood sweetheart. Because Richard had reappeared, my emotions were indeed shaken and unsettled. Before I even had the chance to wake William up to what was happening, our wedding date was already right in front of us. Then came the night before the wedding. His actions, his words, they made it clear to me, he wasn't worthy of me. He didn't deserve me. And they also gave me the courage to reach back out. To try and reclaim that distant feeling, the first love, that had never truly left the softest place in my heart. Chapter 8. Watching William rolling around on the floor, crying and throwing a tantrum, Richard seemed completely unsurprised. Thinking about it, he probably understood William far better than I did. After all, growing up wearing the same pair of pants wasn't just an empty phrase. Back then, Richard and I were young and in a secret relationship. He never brought me to meet his friends or family. Until recently, when he returned to the country, none of the three of us had known about each other's existence or the tangled past between us. At that time, Richard always said to me, "Zara, give me some time. My feelings for you are absolutely real. It's just that my family, right now, I don't have any say at home. Give me some time. Wait for me, okay?" I nodded seriously. Okay, I believed him. A boy whose diving skills were only average, yet who repeatedly risked his life to plunge into the deep sea for me, just to gather 108 rare pearls. That number was my birthday. He used those pearls to craft a set of exquisite, luxurious jewelry, brought it to me, and said it was my birthday gift. He was worthy of my wholehearted trust. I knew his family was wealthy, that he must come from a well-off background, but I had no idea their wealth was that outrageous, or that their power ran that deep. Not until one day, when I was walking down the street and several men in black forcibly dragged me into a car, and I was taken to a quiet private room. Inside sat an elegant, imposing woman. After stating her intentions, she pushed a 1 million check toward me. I was so ashamed I didn't even dare look up at her, but I wouldn't take the money, so I gently pushed it back. I heard her let out a faint, amused scoff. "Young girl, you've got quite an appetite." Then the 1 million check turned into 10 million, pushed back in front of me. Her tone was light, almost gentle. "If that's not enough, I can add more to our family. This is just 1 or 2 months of pocket money. But you must break up with my son and permanently leave his life. He already has a fiancé. Didn't he tell you? Once they graduate, they'll get married. The dowry alone is no less than 10 billion. What do you have?" In that moment, everything I believed in, my worldview, my values, collapsed completely. Forget about billions. Just that 10 million check alone was something an ordinary person wouldn't see in several lifetimes, let alone earn. And Richard's mother, she was casually using it to dismiss her son's poor, insignificant girlfriend. My parents' combined monthly income wasn't even 10,000, and I was just an ordinary student from such a family. Every number she spoke was terrifying. I felt like a toad, foolishly eyeing a swan made of pure white jade. This was no longer about whether we loved each other. It was that I truly didn't deserve him. One of us in the sky, the other in the mud, separated by an impossible distance. A person must have self-awareness. I fled in disgrace, agreed to everything she said, and didn't take the money. That number had genuinely frightened me at the time. Later, Richard never married that so-called fiancée, for reasons I never fully knew. His family directly sent him abroad. They used their influence to restrict his entry, to prevent him from returning to the country. That restriction lasted 6 full years, and during those years, I studied like my life depended on it. Graduate exams, then a combined master's and PhD track. I couldn't allow myself to stop for even a second. I was unbearably insecure, so insecure it seeped into my bones. I was a toad who dared to fall deeply in love with a crown prince living in the heavens. I worked hard, and harder still, trying to make myself a little frog from the mud, at least not look so ugly and repulsive. And then, as I grew older, more mature, and my education continued to rise, I slowly regained my confidence. I also came to understand something, whether it was Richard, or later, William. I never needed to feel inferior, and I certainly never needed to lower myself, because love is equal. He loves me, wants to be with me forever. I love him, want to be with him forever. That's all. If any obstacles arise along the way, we face them together. That is the most correct, and the best, way to respond. Chapter 9. Richard rolled up his sleeves and kicked William twice in the ass. You went through all that trouble to chase her, why didn't you cherish her? You were so proud once you got her, why didn't you cherish her? You were getting married the very next day and still wanted to fool around with your ex. Your wife gets taken right out from under you, serves you right. William sat up from the floor, wiped his tears, and shot back. Do you think I did it on purpose? Eulalia and I grew up together, how could I have no feelings for her at all? I was just confused for a moment. I drank too much and talked nonsense, that stupid proposal was a drunken mistake. Woo! Richard! Even so, does that give you the right to steal your best brother's woman? Doesn't your conscience hurt at all? I'm telling you, starting today, we're done. I'll remember this grudge for the rest of my life. You and I are enemies now. Richard ran a hand through his messy hair and let out a breath. Enemies? You mean the 100 billion project around South City? You think the Cruz family doesn't want it anymore? You should be very clear about who has the final say on that project right now. If I kick the Cruz family out and let that project go down the drain for you, do you think your father, with that explosive temper of his, would break both your legs out of anger? William clenched his fists tightly. You're threatening me? Richard replied lightly. Yeah, I am. So, do you submit? William glared at Richard, furious, unable to say a single word. Richard pulled me into his arms and nudged William's knee with the tip of his shoe again. If you submit, call her sister-in-law. From now on, whenever you see her, be respectful. Keep at least 10 steps away from her. William's eyes were blood red. He stared at Richard for a full minute, teeth clenched. Suddenly, he grabbed his own head and burst into loud sobs again. Should I try to comfort him a little? I tugged at the corner of my mouth, having no idea what to say, so I looked to Richard for help. What about him? What should we do? Without another word, Richard grabbed William by both ankles and dragged him straight toward the door. Your sister-in-law and I just got our marriage certificate this morning. We're in our honeymoon phase. Why are you hanging around here being a giant light bulb? Get out! Go back. Dismiss the guests. Suppress the trending news. And explain things properly to your parents. Tell them I'll come to your house in a few days to formally apologize. William's crying grew even more miserable. Wah, you heartless bastard. Richard, I'll never forgive you. You animal. You scum. You toyed with your own brother like a glass ball. Why did I ever know you? William was finally thrown out the door. Stop howling. And let me correct you on one thing. I didn't steal your woman. You stole mine first, and didn't even know how to cherish her. I just couldn't stand you anymore and took her back. William stood up, sniffling. What do you mean? Richard took my hand. Let me reintroduce her to you. Zara, my first love. The reason I was restricted overseas for 6 years and couldn't return. The reason I drank myself into alcohol poisoning and ended up in the hospital multiple times. The reason you went abroad to see me. The name I never dared mention to you, because I was afraid you'd bother her behind my back. Afraid my mother would keep harassing her. The person standing right in front of you. Zara. The only woman I, Richard, have ever truly loved in this lifetime. And now, she's my wife. So from now on, you'd better put away every last thought you have about her. Don't let even a trace of crooked intentions remain. You know I'm the only son in my family. I'll gradually take full control. I really don't want to have to wipe out the Cruz family completely, including the brother I grew up with. 5 years later, it was my daughter's 2nd birthday. Her name was Little Honey. The birthday banquet was held at Richard's ancestral home. Before the banquet began, her grandmother held her in her arms, eyes full of doting affection, and personally placed a crown worth 200 million on her head. Our little princess was born to enjoy a life of luxury. Grandma's precious Little Honey, happy birthday. Grandma loves you. Little Honey threw herself into her grandmother's arms. Thank you, Grandma. Grandma, I love you too. Moments later, her grandmother glanced a few steps away, where Richard was squatting on the floor, carefully and gently adjusting my shoes and socks. Her expression darkened slightly. She took out a property deed and said to Little Honey, Grandma doesn't know what's been wrong lately. Just seeing water makes me dizzy, very troublesome. That overseas estate is tens of thousands of square meters, and nearly half of it is built around water features. It's been under my name for years, and Grandma doesn't want it anymore. But your father loves diving and playing in the water so much. Grandma's little golden grandson, our little crown Prince Richard, must love it too. With visible distaste, she stuffed the property deed into Little Honey's hands. Go on. Take it to your mom. Let her take you and your little brother there to play. The location and environment of that estate were exceptional. It was said that when it was purchased, it cost nearly 20 billion. It was the most valuable dowry her grandmother had brought into the family. Little Honey's childish voice asked innocently, My little brother? Where is he? Watching my mother-in-law still putting on her usual act of distant displeasure toward me, Richard and I exchanged helpless smiles. He pulled Little Honey into his arms, gently tapped her tiny nose, then placed her small hand on my belly, right here. Perhaps because 7 years ago I hadn't accepted the 10 million she offered. She now looked at me a little differently, or perhaps because my status was no longer what it once had been. I had become a key national talent at the Research Institute, and in the 2nd year after marriage, I had already made outstanding contributions to society. Richard's parents' opposition to our marriage was not as intense as one might have imagined. Now, the stage we were slowly entering was a household full of harmony and joy.